Test. That works. Good. Cool, I have a roll to ping now for streams. Let's set up some little emojis here. Just to make these channels look a little more finished. And for anybody who is watching the stream after it's been uploaded, the main goal for today that I'm going to be focusing on is probably just finishing up the artillery balancing, which is a little up in the air at the moment. So yeah, that's going to be our main focus. And then I have some cool things to show off as well. Because we did a... we have done a... modding system. We've done a modding system, and it's pretty cool. And we've even made some mods that are already on the workshop before it'll go live. And maybe if I do a long stream today, if I did a long stream, which I don't know if I will, but if I did, maybe we could even make a mod before I end the stream. We could just make something really small, just something super, super simple. Like one idea I had today was maybe to make like a cheat mod where all the compositions start out with 9,999 resources each. So you can just go in and just like test and just basically buy whatever units you want, test everything out, and so on. I thought that could be cool. Another one I could do is I could take the easy modifier. Maybe instead I could take the easy modifiers and just make them all like 10x what they currently do. So you can choose how you want to cheat. Like the one that gives you double starting resources, it could be 10x starting resources. And the one that gives you like 10% extra experience gain could be 10 times the experience gain. This way you can fly through the unit tree or get a bunch of resources. The other one could be like 10x morale, so you could just test like your fire rates and without worrying about your guys running, for example. Maybe something like that could be cool. But yeah, I can do a whole bunch of stuff. That's easy enough to do. Anyways, I'm just cleaning these up. There we go. All right, let me open the chat. Pop this out. How do I zoom in to this? It's not letting me zoom in. Oh, there we go. But yeah, in terms of the update, the thing is Thanksgiving kind of messes things up because I have to go to Thanksgiving tomorrow, and that is annoying. And yeah. So one thing I want to look at with you guys, I think I want to close everything out, or you know what? Let's just close these out. There. Something I want to look at with you guys is artillery. And I want to get your opinions on artillery. In fact, you know what I may even do is, if anyone wants to give their opinions on artillery, that's the focus of the stream. And I'm curious from your guys' perspectives what the biggest problems are, besides canister. There. And so we can figure that out. Another thing I did is artillery tests, debug, artillery tests. So one thing I did for my test is I remove this, turn the AI off, go here, then go to core data, and I put this on 50, build core data. I would love to see artillery do more morale damage to make it more effective. Yeah, I can actually play around with that stat. I can play around with that. My one issue that I have, which I'm curious what you guys think. let's talk. So I'll have some notes open. In fact, you know what? Let's do proper notes if we're going to do notes, okay? So you guys get to leave your direct feedback. So this is community feedback artillery. And so we have French light compositions OP. I don't think a lot of people are playing it, to be honest. I think it is overpowered too for high level play, but I don't think people are using it that much. Okay. It's just the range is an issue, but you already mentioned that stacking it is getting nerfed. So stacking range buffs on artillery is too effective. Now, I didn't actually nerf it, really. All I did was I took the elevation screws and made them a little less powerful, and that was kind of it. But how else are you guys getting... How are you able to get that much range on the artillery? Is it mainly doctrines, or mainly skill stacking, or mainly items, or they're all normal, but when you put all three of them together, maybe that becomes a problem? What do you guys think? Because I have not... Artillery is the thing I'm least experienced with, so I don't feel as equipped to improve it at the moment. I think artillery will be fine once canister shot becomes less godlike. So someone else is saying that artillery is fine, but canister shot is, you know, OP. That's an opinion there. There's a treatise. I did get rid of that treatise. Entirely, and I changed it to something else, and I reduced elevation screws. So those are the two changes I did do. So, the one that looks like a cannon itself. Yeah, I changed that one. I think I just made it like a reload buff or something instead, or maybe even accuracy. Maybe Griffin to evaluate any doctrines that are providing. I don't think I have any doctrines that give you range, though. So maybe those two changes I made, maybe I could say Griffin to reduce the base range of artillery slightly. Staff Sergeant gives me 15% range. A Staff Sergeant gives you 15% range? No, it doesn't. There's no way. Let me check. Do you mean the Engineer? Is that who it is? Yeah, max range. 15%, yeah. And he's giving cover bonus. See, this isn't that much, though. That's the thing. So... Engineer plus Holiday. Yeah, Holiday I already fixed. So I think the Engineer is fine to leave where he is, but Holiday here now gives you reload skill and less ammo consumption, which is actually kind of useful, because with certain guns, with the solid shot, you actually burn through ammo quickly. So I think this is actually useful to use the solid shot better, but you get no range buff from that anymore. And then elevation screws are also less effective. Now it's 5, 10, 15% instead of 10, 15, 20%. I think artillery is the strongest tool in the AI arsenal, so I wouldn't make the changes before seeing how it behaves with improved AI pathing and not being able to snipe it with canister. Yeah, that's true. That's definitely true. Here's a cool test area I have. So check this out. Oh, by the way, I'm using a mod that makes the unit scales 1-to-1, so I'm going to have to turn that off, but just check this out. I can actually line up on these little lines I made, like that, and then I can grab any unit I want to test with, like this guy, and then you can put him there for consistent ranges. This is my... Here, let me just check, show you something real quick. If you go to Workshop, which is currently hidden, but you'll have access on the update day, we can actually see there's some mods already made, and this is one that I made, 1-to-1 scale, and so it changes the unit scale to be much larger. But what's cool about this is you can actually change epic, ultra, large, normal, or small to different amounts of large scale. So even on the mod, the small scale is still larger than the current game's epic scale. So you can really fine-tune the exact size increase that you want to go for. But yeah, right now I should not be playing with that mod, but you can see how big the units are now, which is kind of cool. But anyways, I can do this test, and the other cool thing about this test is I can fire, right? And I can go to fast forward, and look how fast. So I can fly through and let them burn all their ammo, and then record the kills they get, and we can figure out if we like it or not. And so you can see this Iron 6-pounder is firing over and over again, but it's not doing that much. Now, part of this is that I'm using a mod, so I've got to turn that off. What is cool, though, is if you go to the main menu, it's actually quite easy to adjust it. What's the performance? The performance is fine, but if a melee happens, it's pretty rough. So I think this is more of a gimmick mod, just to see how big your army truly looks like. But I don't think it's amazing. Yeah. So we're going to move that out, and we're going to load that mod list, which is empty now. And then we're going to go back to the battle debug and go in. Here's the other cool thing that I want to show you guys that I thought was really, really cool is, gosh, how am I going to organize this? It's all organized wrong. Well, I suppose it doesn't matter. I have this sorted by gun types, but I sort it by DPM, which is damage per minute. And with what I just showed you where I fast forwarded, I recorded how many total kills they got, what the damage per minute was, how many kills you get per taller that you're spending, the average kills per shot, the gun cost, the accuracy, and the reload of the crew, the total reload time, and the total amount of ammo used per shot. So we have got like a full breakdown of the artillery stats. Can that mod work with Iron Man? Yeah, I think you're actually able to use any mod with Iron Man. So if someone wanted to cheat, theoretically you can, but I don't think I care if someone wants to cheat. You can technically go into the game files right now and start tinkering with the JSON files without this modding update and cheat with Iron Man. And, you know, I don't care. So, it's all right. Hi, Hetman. How are you? Hetman, we're just putting some final touches before this update comes out. And I'm going to balance this on Ultra. Yeah, that's good. So, yeah, we can take a iron 6-pound gun, line this up, put us against a Hungarian Fusilier, put him here like that, and fire. Once you nerf cannon ranges, you might need to increase the range of alternate ammo a bit. Yeah, I will need to make adjustments probably. All right, so you can see I used up all my ammunition, got 589 kills with this iron 6-pounder, and I did not route this regiment there. I just did some supporting fire there. By the way, I know everybody's going to be asking me this question, so if anybody in the chat could answer for me, if anybody asks when the update is going to go live, I don't have an answer, just November. I just have to, we have to test it and see everything's working, so I unfortunately can't give them an answer, but if other people can tell people that, then it'll save me time from repeating myself. But yeah, that's the amount of kills there, and gosh, you know, I just don't know where to start. And you know, the other issue is I think people haven't even been using artillery because everyone's just been using canister, that no one could even really give me good feedback at the moment. Maybe that's a bit reductionist, but I don't think you guys can give me like a huge amount of feedback on, hey, this cannon uses too much ammo, that one does too much damage, because everyone's just using canister shot. So I'm having a tough time knowing where to start, because I balanced everything else on the upcoming change list here. You know, I balanced 32 pages of changes, and none of this was particularly difficult to me. I kind of knew what I needed to fix and change. The artillery, I'm just feeling like a bit like, where do I want to start with this? Like, what is the actual biggest issue here? So, yeah, one thing we could do is I could take the morale damage from artillery and bump it up a bit. So they're not going to get more kills than they currently are, but they could do a little bit more morale damage. That could be the case. It does maybe feel weird that if they burn through all of their ammo with this 6-pounder, they just get this unit to half health. What is sparking you to want to change artillery to begin with? I suppose it's just that no one... I would say two things. Number one, I had balanced them before, and they were so broken and overpowered that in order to hot fix it, I just took the number of damage and I just flung it to basically do no damage and left it for 4 weeks. So I've not even really looked at it systematically. I've just kind of thrown in a placeholder number. So that part of me feels weird that I didn't actually balance it properly. The other thing is, I'll just address it because I think everybody's going to keep saying it. Canister has been completely overhauled from scratch. The canister shot can't fire through enemy units anymore. The canister shot cannot fire through open order anymore. The canister shot no longer gives a percentage damage increase. It's now an additive increase. It's the exact same thing with buckshot and the other ammo types. They're no longer multipliers. So you can't get 300 accuracy or 200 damage anymore. It's not possible. Those are all the biggest changes. And then the other change is it has greater drop-off damage. So even if you do manage to put Canister Shot really long range, it drops off in damage more considerably. So in almost all ways, Canister is just kind of not very effective. And I don't care about it right now. I can balance Canister on my own. I can open up a separate scene and just do some Canister Shot testing and refine it a little bit more beyond those changes I've made. But Solid Shot, I don't really know the position that Solid Shot is in at the moment. Howitzer Solid Shot is in a better place overall, though the prices are the weakest part. Yeah, the prices are definitely fucked up. I agree. Yeah, you can see here that the highest damage per minute belongs to howitzers and bronze guns. It's not necessarily bad that the bronze guns are outperforming the iron. I think that's totally fine the way they are. These kills, by the way, are not even using any items or veterancy, so you could probably break 1,000. But it does take a while. This is like burning through all of the ammo. That's the assumption there. There's the shell damage. And the gun costs are a mess. I think one thing we'll definitely flag is artillery gun costs are too high. The other thing is like maybe some of the power that artillery gives should be baked into the unit stats themselves instead of being so dependent on the gun upgrade. More tests with Canister off stream probably, so that's kind of separate because like I said, I've already fixed a bunch of stuff with it, but I'll probably just continue refining it a little bit more. And then Solid Shot feels slightly underwhelming, I think, but I don't know what I want to do to fix it yet. Yeah, this is, I'll just repeat again, the Canister, I would not even mention the Canister Shot because I've, it's been fixed in so many ways, so, yeah. Why is the iron 12-pounder so bad? Shouldn't it be the 3-pounder that's worse? Yeah, I think that is an issue, too. I think it's that the 12-pounder consumes so much ammunition, and in the test, I was not giving them any items. So if the 12-pounder actually had, like, a limber chest, it would be able to perform probably a bit better. Round shot artillery is not a good investment. They barely break units, and they don't get enough kills. You're simply better off investing in infantry. Yeah, and then we can look at the list and fix problems like the iron 12-pounder underperforming. Maybe lean into rolls a bit more with artillery, like allowing the field guns to perform better at long range and howitzers to be better at solid shot short range. I stopped counter battery dueling with solid shot since it does little damage. The thing is, like, with this, I'm yelled at by people who say the counter battery fire with solid shot is so broken and overpowered it makes the game boring, because all I do is I take five howitzers and I focus fire each artillery down and I can just wipe them out in each volley. And then I have people yelling at me and say counter battery fire is so useless, this is broken, I'm not playing. And then I don't know what the hell to do with that. I get an equal amount of feedback on each side, so that part's tough. Now, I bet some of that counter battery fire arguments from people saying it was too powerful was probably from people using the canister shot exploit. I bet it was disproportionately skewed by that. And since canister shot is fixed, I bet now it's just in a position where counter battery fire is probably a little bit weak probably now. So we can just put a note down to evaluate counter battery fire. If it's about getting kills, it's going to be hard to balance. Yeah. Problem is massed fire. Yeah, exactly. The AI rarely does counterbat. The thing is, I'll also just say as well, and I know this is from arguing from a historical standpoint and not gameplay, counter battery fire was like never done. It's like the least efficient thing ever done in battle, and crews were actively discouraged in doing it. There's very few instances of it ever happening, and I don't want it in the game either. So from a historical and a gameplay perspective, I don't like it. I don't mind if there's a really dangerous cannon and you want to focus fire a little bit to try to make it weaker, try to break that one cannon. But I don't think the goal of the game should be to build an artillery force whose sole purpose is to break the entire enemy artillery corps at the start of the game as an exploit, and that's how you begin every battle. And if you can't do that, then there's something wrong with the game. That to me is not good. I don't like that. So, because the thing is, historically, counter battery fire is really tough because you're firing at the furthest target away at the smallest target away. And it was also considered dishonorable, and that's kind of a separate issue. But, yeah, it's not something I really want to encourage that much. It's not like the biggest priority is counter battery fire. Not really. I don't think counter battery fire should be essential to the game as much. So, yeah, I don't know. Artillery is too squishy for proper... Yeah, I did fix that as well. Even I did fix that because I made it so... Let me actually see here. If these guys were to now fire at max range at the artillery, how much damage do they do? They retreat and shatter them. Okay, so that's more of a morale issue. See how they actually only killed 1/5 of the unit? It's more that the morale... Look at the actual health bar. The health wasn't that bad, but the morale got completely wrecked. I think it's because... they have such a small unit size that the percentage of men they lost was so high in that case that the morale tanks. But you can see I reduced the fire damage pretty drastically there. It's just the morale that's an issue with getting shot. Maybe that could be a separate thing I can alter. Let me think. Let me see if I can do something here. Okay, I put a task to be able to adjust the morale damage received, because the fire damage received is pretty good here. Like, each volley would take out one gun. I think that's actually pretty reasonable, but the morale damage you take from musket fire should probably be a little lower. This way you can use the artillery a bit closer to the front line. I think that'd be nice. The problem with the artillery is morale. Yeah, of course. If you don't counter battery fire, the artillery will tax you 300 casualties a battle. Yeah, that's true. As a normal shot user, my main tactic is if my artillery outranges my enemy, I do counter battery fire, but I don't normally use it. Gotcha. Okay. That's good to know. If you don't want counter battery fire to be the first priority, you need to nerf all artillery. Is that really true? That artillery is this powerful? I guess I have not been playing the game enough to know. I didn't think artillery was so overpowered without canister shot. I didn't think solid shot was so overpowered. What about having AI form column? That's not what we're talking about right now, Alex. Oh, I guess for round shot, yeah, that's still an AI issue. That I don't think artillery is so overpowered. Yeah, I didn't think it was either. I'm not scared of iron long guns with the round shot, but how? Yeah, it seems to be that howitzers are a bigger issue. So like, okay, so I'm gonna open it up and I'm gonna just see what I can do. So I'm not going to touch range for now because I've already nerfed some of the items for range. And I'm going to just iron some stuff out. The strength in artillery is not destroying a unit instantly in one volley. It's able to Being able to turn 4 to 8 batteries to any unit at the line fire all at once to route them. Yeah. Which there's nothing you can do to fix that. There's literally no way to fix that. It's just saying, like, if you use all your units at once, they're good. Well, what am I... Like, would we hard-code it so that if you've recently been hit by artillery, you ignore the next shot? Or, like, ignore 50% of the damage from the next shot? I feel like that's just not... That'd be kind of lame to do. So... Yeah, I don't think there's a way to fix that, really. I'm trying to think about it, but I don't think so. Yeah. So, all right, I'm going to stop reading the chat for now, because I'm going to play with some of these stats a bit, and then I'm going to go back to the chat. So don't feel like I'm ignoring you. Let me just tinker with some things. First things first, let's see here. Canister bonus damage is fine. You get very little bonus damage on howitzers. I like that. Explosion radiuses are fine. I think the amount of damage howitzers do, I actually like. It's mainly that the regular field guns are not doing enough damage. So that's our issue. And howitzers lack a little bit of accuracy, which I think makes sense because you're not pointing them directly at the target. You're firing them in the air, and things that fire indirectly tend to be a bit harder to predict where it's going to land. So I think it makes sense that they have way less accuracy, and I think that's fine. They have less range. Perhaps they could have even less range. I'm not sure. So I'm going to think about that. Where's the actual cannonball damage? There it is. So we can see the actual cannonball damage is much lower on the regular field guns, which I would be open to increasing this. Because an iron 3-pound gun is 1.5, but a iron howitzer is 3, so it's twice the cannonball damage, and you get an explosion radius increase, meaning it's going to affect more models when the shot lands. You know, I'd be willing to at least bump this up to like 175. And I'm going to take a look at my artillery test list. And we're going to compare the 3-pound gun to a 6-pound howitzer, which are supposed to be equivalents, roughly. Which is there and there. These are supposed to be equivalents. Okay. The average kills per shot of the howitzer is more. The damage per minute is actually only slightly more. The total kills are about the same, actually. So, you know what? I don't know if that's that necessary. Let me just see here. Look at this. Look at the 12-pound guns. These are doing so poorly. And even for the bronze, the 12-pound, the higher caliber guns are sinking toward the bottom. Let me take a look at the total kills. But then if you sort by total kills, where's the 12-pounder land? Still toward the bottom. I think it's because these 12-pounders is... I think the 12-pounders are getting so much of an accuracy debuff. Yeah, look at this. So watch, it goes down by 0.4 to 0.3, so it's a minus 10 to its accuracy. But then look at this, it's more than minus 10. That's now minus 15. So I think this is a big problem here. So I'm going to go and log that. I'm going to create like an indirect log and say high caliber artillery have had their accuracy increased by just 5%. And that's a big difference here. Look, that's a more gradual staircase down, and that should make them a little bit better. And this goes by 0.5 at a time, which is interesting, meaning that would be that. That makes that staircasing a little bit better. And then where's the 12-pound unicorn? The unicorn is also low. See how it's way lower? So this is also a problem. And so I would go 2.5 on that. And these bronze guns are tethered. The math is tethered to the iron gun, so I actually don't have to change these. They automatically change, which is cool. So all I have to do is balance iron, and bronze gets automatically balanced based on that. Liechtenstein's also seem kind of rough, but look, I just bumped... See how if I go to artillery tests and we sort by our DPM, The Liechtenstein is the lowest DPM of the special guns. All the special guns consistently hit the 90s, which is really cool, but the Liechtenstein doesn't because it's a 12-pounder, and 12-pounders kind of suck. So because I buffed the 12-pounder accuracy by 0.5, it indirectly just buffed up our Liechtenstein by 0.5, which is nice. Yeah, that's good. And so that should now be a better gun. The Brummer is overperforming a little bit. So I think that the Brummer should be adjusted just a little bit. I think we could probably take the reload time on the Brummer and maybe adjust it. Or even the reload consumption. In my opinion, Liechtenstein is the best in the game because of its effective range relative to the other cannons. Yeah. Now, it does definitely outrange them a lot. It definitely has a range advantage, which I wasn't factoring into in my test, because in my test it's static. It's just firing at kind of a mid-range. But if the Liechtenstein gets the free first 2 volleys compared to a Brummer, then, you know, it has an advantage there for sure. Yeah, maybe I don't need to touch the Brummer. Maybe it's just that I just need to make the Liechtenstein a little bit more effective, and then we can leave it there. So that's one thing I wanted to do, and I think that's better now. I wonder if the base range in the game should be changed at all. I wonder if the howitzers should just get a little less range if they're being this effective, because they're a little dangerous. Like, we notice the howitzers are disproportionately, if I go to DPM, they're kind of in that mid-range, and then if I go to there, because they're slow. So if we don't do damage per minute and we just go to kills, then the howitzers are all near the top. These things are getting the highest kills. So I'm thinking that perhaps the range should get reduced, maybe by like 25 on the howitzers. It would make them worse. Or I could change their effective range to make their effective range a little bit lower, which would make their accuracy just a little bit more variable. Higher base range on field guns, make items less effective, leave howitzers and unicorns as they are. I noticed the AI artillery build doesn't make sense. Yeah, I also changed that. So if you look at AI changes here, the AI has a new item selection system. The AI is biased towards equipping certain items based on their unit class. They will choose items more optimally between each act. For example, artillery has a bias towards equipping elevation screws, gunner's implements, and canister now, but the bias is lower in Act 1 and becomes greater in each act. So they become naturally more efficient in the way they min-max their items over time. That's been changed for the update. So you won't have to worry about the AI bringing really shitty guns. I've also changed it so that the AI primary and secondary weapon upgrades are now weighted based on a unit type basis. So for example, there's less of a chance you'll find recruits running around with a Jaeger rifle early game. I've also made it guaranteed that the artillery gets a weapon upgrade in Act 3 boss. This way you don't load into the final battle of the game and the enemy's using an iron 3-pound gun because it failed a dice roll. So I've really adjusted the math in terms of the guns they equipped, as well as the items they equip, based on the context of the unit you're going against, the unit type, the act you're in, and the type of army you're facing as well. There. And look, they even used a bear. So they have the bear for reload. They have canteens to get rid of the stamina loss because the howitzers take a while to reload. They have grape shot. They have a morale buff, so they're harder to break. They have gold elevation screws and silver gunner's implements. This is a very good build. The only thing that throws it off is the alcohol, but I kept that in. I could have removed it. I kept it in because I just thought it was funny that the artillery crew is drinking on the job and it's worsening their accuracy, and I just thought that was too funny to not have a chance that may happen. So I had to leave that in. Yep. And yeah, I think the only other thing is, I think the howitzers are actually in a pretty good spot. I think the howitzers are fine. It just might be the case that the field guns are a little bit bad at the moment. I think the 12-pound guns sucked, so we've improved them a little bit. And then how do you make the long field guns better? I don't want to increase their range because we have an issue where people are exploiting long range as it is. And I don't necessarily want to make howitzers worse. I could make the effective range of a field gun better, so it lands its targets more effectively. So when it's firing at its max range, it's not missing so frequently. That's something I could do. Alternatively, I could take the cannonball damage. Did I already do this? Did I already change the cannonball damage? Let me check. I did. I did change it. Did I only change one thing? It looks like it. Looks like I only changed that one thing. Okay. Let's go back to what it was. The ideal for me, the long guns have the most consistent damage but the lowest DPM. Yeah, so we can keep their damage low, but we can make their effective range higher, meaning they're going to miss less often. And I think that would... Look at that. So their effective range is 175 right now. We could probably change it to get it to be around 200. Let's do that. So what if we did 1.75? There you go. So 1.75, 1.75. There. Those field guns are correct now. Good. The bronze guns actually pull from the iron gun effective range, so they actually don't benefit from more effective range, which I think is actually fine. So look at that. They're getting less accuracy drop off now, the regular field guns. And howitzers we're not going to change because we're happy with those. Is there anything else we wanted to change? How about the reload supply, the amount of ammo consumption a gun takes? The amount of ammunition the gun consumes. I make the higher tier guns consume a lot of ammo, but I think that's fine because it means you have to invest in limber chests to use them properly. So I'm actually not unhappy with how they currently are in that regard. I think those are fine. Can I think of anything else besides pricing? We have to do pricing next. Is there anything else I'd want to change? I could even adjust the reload time to make them a little bit more efficient so they fire more frequently, but they're not doing as much damage. So we could, this is maybe a bit extreme, but we could shave off 5 seconds from field guns and then leave howitzers and unicorns the way they are. So this way they hit just a little bit more often, slightly. They reload just a little bit quicker. And then the higher tier gun, the 12-pounder, is a little less inaccurate. That would be the combination of the changes. And maybe that's what we want to do. That's what we want to do, maybe. Let's see. I like the idea of faster reload and accuracy. Well, yeah. I think that's what I want to go for, honestly. You know what we could even do? Before I do that, one last change I was considering is it worth it all putting more of the emphasis? Would you consider increasing ammo capacity for higher level crews? Not really, because it's not a stat I can play with. I actually can't even do that. Something I've been thinking of doing is, what if I put more of the stats weight over to the units themselves and less on the guns you equip? Like, if... How would I do that, though? Let me think. Like, for example, a 6-pound gives you 30 accuracy, but your base accuracy is 25. So the field gun has more accuracy than the crew. But if the crew had 30 accuracy and the gun had 25, it would put more of the emphasis on the unit itself and not the gun itself. Which, in effect, I don't think really makes a difference. But maybe it just makes a little bit more sense. To do it that way. I'm not sure. That's a tough one. I don't know what that even necessarily solves, though. Like, if you wanted to solve something, you'd probably have to bump all the artillery crews up by, like, 10, and then reduce some of the guns by 5 to 10, and then you're now making the crews better. And I guess you could do that. That'd probably be more work. I don't know. I don't want to touch the reload time because the reload times are actually fine. So I think I'd put the reload more on the cannon itself. Where did these used to be? That used to be 72. So let's go 1.2 on those. Let's go 1.1 on these. There. With infantry, it's about a 60-40 split. Yeah, you're right. I think it's worth probably reducing the accuracy of all the guns by 5 and then giving all the artillery crews 5 more accuracy. I think I'd probably want to do that. Just so more of the emphasis is on the crews themselves. And in effect, that doesn't really change anything. Like you'll still, the math will still end up coming out to the same numbers by the end of that. Maybe leave crews lower and graduate them up to a higher accuracy. Yeah, I kind of know what you're saying. That's an interesting idea. That's probably a better implementation, Philip. So like, let me draw out the idea. So the idea could be, let's say you have 3 types of crews. We'll say bad crew, mid crew, good crew. And let's say we had a bad gun, mid gun, good gun. And I think the current accuracy is what, like, let's actually use a real example. It's currently the case that it goes like 40, 30, 20. So 40, 30, 20. This is accuracy. That's accuracy. And it's currently the case for like maybe Prussia or Austria. Austria's got, I think, a greater variation of crews. So let's use them. Yeah, they go 30, 35, 40. 30, 35, 40. So these are incrementing by plus 10 at a time. Is that true? Yes, it is true. Okay. What you could do is reduce this by -5. Reduce that by -5. Reduce that by -5. So then you've got 35, 25, 15 as the new numbers. Let me actually redo that in a new color. Okay. Then what you could do is I guess you wouldn't even reduce the accuracy on the gun. I'll come back to that. But the bad crew could be -5, the mid crew could stay, and then the good crew could actually go up by +5. And so it'd be 30, 35, sorry, 25, 35, 45. So you can up by 10 per upgrade. But ultimately, you're still lower than you would be normally, right? Because a good crew, 20 and 40 is 60. 45 and 15 is also 60. So this would in effect change nothing but make the bad crews worse, which I think is not a good thing. Now, if the other idea could be that the worst crews have more trouble with the good guns. This would make battalion... Yeah, it would make battalion artillery weaker, which I don't really think it needs to be weaker. I don't think it needs to be weaker. Unless, here's one idea, which I don't know if I like this. Currently, the bad crew comes with only 4 guns. And then these guys come up with 6 guns. Now, what we could do is we could buff these guys up by +2, and they could just get 6 guns like everyone else does. So they're a little less accurate but have higher firepower. And that could maybe help compensate for them. So in effect, they aren't really changed as much. They'd just be a lot better, honestly. And then these guys are just even better than they were. So you would just be growing in power. And these guys would not be getting that much of a debuff. And then less emphasis is on the guns. I'm not sure. You could make the gun size smaller, but same accuracy as a mid-crew. I could do that, yeah. I could definitely do that. It may seem weird for a player to upgrade their artillery, though, and get no accuracy increase, and I feel like players might be upset with that. I like how it added guns from battalion to regiment. Yeah, I did like that, too, because it's more accurate that a battalion gun would be smaller and more mobile. So, yeah, this is a tough one. Maybe do 35, 35, 45. I don't know, Philip. I don't think I would change it, honestly. I think my only issue is that, yeah, if I'm reducing this and reducing this just makes battalion guns just horrible then. I would rather just give the battalion guns like higher reload, so you can actually use them closer to the front line and just fire rapidly, and probably give them canister shot. And you would focus on using battalion artillery with rapid fire canister, because canister isn't really as dependent on your accuracy stat. It's just dependent on the gun. Maybe the lower caliber doesn't do a drop-off. Yeah, it could stay. But that just makes the lower tier guns even more powerful, and right now they're actually outperforming the higher tier guns. Here's one more idea. Hold on. I don't know why we didn't think of this. Here's one more idea. If we don't want to actually worsen some of the crews, here's what we could do. No change for this one. +5 for this one. And +10 for these. We could do that. The only real difference then would be that these guys are getting slightly worse, these guys are equal, and these guys are getting better. So there is a greater sense of progression there. But I still don't like that the bad crews are worse. We could though do +5 reload. So they're slightly less accurate, but firing a little quicker. It would still be a nerf to battalion artillery, though, yeah, and I don't think they need a nerf. I really don't. Here's another crazy idea if you want to entertain this, is you can go +5, +10, and +15 accuracy. But I think we're getting a bit ahead of ourselves with that. In reality, if you adjust for the fact that we reduced the accuracy on the left, this in effect would be only +10. And this in effect would only be a +5. And this in effect would be a +0. That's what it would be in effect if you're adjusting for the fact that we're reducing the accuracy of the guns. And so you would go from 35, 45, 55. You'd go from a bad crew and a bad gun having, the crew would have 30 accuracy and the gun would have 40 accuracy. And you'd go from that to the crew having 35 accuracy and the gun having 35 accuracy. It makes it more crew dependent, and you can mess with the values depending on the faction. Yeah. I do prefer this because now you've actually got an equal 50-50 weight between the unit and the gun. So the crew actually matters more. Whereas before, you just slap on a huge gun onto this really inexperienced crew. And even if I suppose the problem with this is if I had a crew with only 10 accuracy, he can get carried by having a gun with 40 accuracy. But by reducing the guns down to 35, it puts a little more emphasis on you needing to get the crew better. So like veterancy and stuff would matter more, and upgrading would matter more there. And then if we do that, we can make the guns a little cheaper. So they're a little cheaper to buy, they're a little less accurate, and it matters more about the crew itself. And it makes the mid-tier crews actually perform a little better, and the high-tier crews perform even better as well. They're missing a lot less often. A different approach would be stamina. Yeah, stamina definitely matters too, because your crews, with the guns that take a while to reload, they do get worn out. Having been invested in artillery changes and mulling it over, I feel like all of these theories are a moot point until the economy of artillery is addressed. Oh yeah, it is going to be adjusted massively. That's already on my list as a guarantee. I don't even think it's that hard, because I actually already did the math on the effectiveness of the guns, and I can actually price them based on their effectiveness. You achieve the same thing without touching the guns and giving mid-tier crews +5 and +10. Yeah, I know I do technically, but it just pushes down, when you hover over a gun, it just pushes down the look of what those guns actually are doing. Like, I just don't like that when you hover over a musket contributes 20 accuracy to a unit with 40 base accuracy. But when you hover over an artillery piece, the gun accuracy is higher than the crew. And something about that, I feel like we are achieving that same thing of what you're saying, but it just visually, it not only achieves that goal that we want, but it visually looks a little nicer, is my point. Unless you guys disagree, like, what do you think? Should we just leave the guns the way they are, and then maybe just buff the mid and high tier crews a little bit in terms of accuracy? We could do that. That could be done. I'm not sure. I don't mind it the way it is, yeah. We also don't need to give the crews any more accuracy if we don't think we need to. We could leave them the way they are. I'm not sure how necessary it is. I like the other changes we made. I feel pretty confident in the other changes we made. This is the one area that I'm lacking a little bit more confidence. Also, doesn't artillery cap out at 125? Yeah, I think it's actually 135. Something like that. It'd make big guns supreme for better crews, because they would be in a better position to fully utilize the optimal ranges. I prefer the change personally, and the cannon costs are too much. Yeah, the cannon costs will be changed, of course. I would like to see how the AI behave in battle before buffing the accuracy. Yeah. Why don't we not mess with the accuracy right now and just go one step at a time? I think we've already changed. Let's see what we already changed. Higher caliber artillery have had their accuracy increased by 5%. The effective range of field guns have been increased by what? Approximately 1.5 to... we approximately increased it by 15%. The other thing we did is round shot getting a damage buff. It feels like it's super weak. You know what we could do is, let me just buff morale damage from artillery ? We'll come back to that. There. The effective range of field guns have been increased. And what was the last thing that we did? We also increased... Did I increase the cannonball damage? I don't think I did. Oh, reload time. And then I could make the artillery do slightly more morale damage. I'm open to doing that. Sorry. So here's what we have. Global morale damage modifier artillery. Global morale damage modifier. Okay. So currently, all gunfire in the game, I've made it's reduced by about 40%. When you're firing with artillery, you're only reducing it by 30%. What we could do is reduce it by only 20% instead. So let's try that. Yeah. So all artillery morale damage. Watch us make artillery so broken. Yeah. I don't know. I think a little buff to the solid shot damage would be nice. This is only solid shot, by the way. This is not, we could go only 5% if we want to be a little less extreme. Let's just do 5% for now. Okay. And then the artillery pricing needs to be adjusted now. And let's run this test again. From the AI, they already smack you with solid shot. Yeah, that's a tough one. I could improve the counter battery fire a little bit if we think it needs to be higher. Do you guys find that solid shot isn't doing enough in counter battery fire? I've never had a unit rout due to enemy artillery in my 150 hours. Yeah. Explosion targeting artillery bonus. Artillery damage versus other artillery. Artillery explosion damage versus other artillery morale damage modifier. Solid shot can only rout an enemy battery if I get 4+ cannons to do it in quick succession. Yeah. And then artillery canister damage received. So they actually get a 50% less damage if they're being targeted by canister now. That's a new addition. So it's harder to canister shot artillery, which makes sense because you're firing at this really tiny target far away usually, so it's not as effective. I think that's fine. Because right now it's a bit overpowered. What we could do is right now you only deal half the amount of morale damage you normally deal when you're targeting other artillery with solid shot. So I could bring it up to 0.6 instead of a 50% reduction. Now it's only a 40% reduction. So this way the morale damage you're dealing to artillery is just a little bit higher when you hit them. And that could be nice. Or we could increase... The other alternative is we could increase the kills they get when they're targeting other artillery. What would you prefer? Getting more kills against enemy artillery or the morale? Because kills are currently actually reduced by 10%. Morale is currently reduced by 50% when you're targeting other artillery with solid shot. I think it's fine as is. I'm just scared our buffs to artillery are going to make the AI crack with the new items. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. The thing is, if we improve counter battery fire, it means you can knock out the enemy artillery a little easier now if they are getting a lot of kills. Now it should be easier to shut them down. And then we're going to make artillery cheaper, so then you can get better guns quicker, or at least just get into the low-tier guns quicker. And so then you can do better counter battery fire and just use your artillery a bit easier. But yeah, do you guys have a preference on when you're firing at enemy artillery? Being able to knock out enemy artillery without cheese is nice. Yeah, I agree. I might just, because this number is 0.9, I just increased the amount of morale damage artillery does. Why don't we just bring this up to 1? Because we already did morale. So we can bring up the kills a little bit, and then that in tandem with the morale means you're going to deal more morale damage and more kills to artillery when you target them. I had to shoot an enemy artillery down to 7 because their morale was so... Right, okay, maybe that would be an issue. That's a tough one. I mean, we have to test it to see. But that is definitely a tough one. Let's try it at 1. And I will first... Here's what we're going to do. Watch. We're going to take our artillery and put it against theirs at 150. We're going to keep retreating in, and we're gonna go in and what do we want to do? Yeah, test out what it is now. We're gonna test out what it currently is, and then I'm gonna rebuild the core data of those 2 changes we made, and then we're gonna see how long it takes after the change. And we're not rebuilding items, so the new stat changes we did otherwise aren't being factored in. We're just factoring in. We're just changing one thing at a time. We're just going to factor in the morale and HP damage change. So let's put these guys at max range. I'll move them up to my blue line. And I'll move them up where... I guess I'll move them in between these 2 lines, right? And then I'll stand back on my line. There. So they're a decent amount of distance away. I'm going to tell them to hold fire, and I'm going to fire at them. So my first volley with no items or anything, I did nothing. Let's reload. Fire again. Barely anything. So this is what it looks like when we get a hit off in the old version. We're going to do 3 levels of tests. We're going to do current build, right? We're going to do increased morale plus damage. And then we're going to do the increased morale damage and better field gun stats. And so this will be our first shot. And then we're going to test it out if we use all of our ammunition now. Okay. And then this is after using all ammunition. And then the enemy is standing in between the 2 lines, and I'm standing on the line. Okay. So now let's rebuild core data and see what happens. Good. So we're going to stand on the line again, take the enemy artillery, and put that in between the 2 lines, which is around here. Tell them to hold fire. And then we're going to run that test again. So we're going to fire. Let's see if we hit this time. There, that's our first hit this time. So we dealt pretty much the same amount of kills, 142 to 143, but it looks like we did more morale damage. You can see the morale is lower there and slightly more HP damage. And now let's use all of our ammo. Why is... Oh, Damn, that sucks. The battle speed is supposed to be 50. So let's try that again. And then we're going to undo that change there. The morale damage is going to outdo the damage dealt. Again, that's fine, because I don't think a low-level, no-experience, 6-pound iron gun should be routing an enemy field artillery just in a straight-up duel. I think you should have a couple items on, or a little bit of veterancy, or a gun upgrade, or an officer. In this case, I have nothing. I have literally no advantage in any way at all. I'm not even close to my target, and I'm not even using a good gun for this. You should also probably be using a howitzer, because it's got better splash damage. Okay. So we're going to fire. Yeah, this time we did 145. Which is actually a little bit worse. But you can see that morale damage is still lower there. And so now let's fast forward. And just see what we get. Okay, now let's grab this. And say after using 100% ammo, and then we have one more change to make. So we got about the same amount of kills. And the morale is about the same as well. So now we're going to do the better field gun stats. So this is where we buffed the effective range of our guns. And we may have also done a couple other things. But the main thing was effective range. Let's see what else got changed here. We have better reload time, which won't really help us that much. I guess it will prevent them from regaining morale a little bit less. The solid shot... No, yeah, it's just effective range mainly. So we're going to land our shots just a little bit more frequently. Morale cap is based on the unit HP, right? So it won't change if the same amount of morale dealt is regenerated. Yeah, that's right, Philip. That's correct. What you're saying is accurate. But what we're testing now is the effective range. And effective range just means I'm going to miss less often. If I miss less often, I'll probably get more kills. Oh, I did not take the picture that I was supposed to. Oh well. Let's get all of our shots off first. Looks like I'm hitting almost every time, though. Yeah, seems like a lot less misses this time. Isn't that better? I actually don't mind this result because I have no items or anything. That's not a bad result at all. Look how much worse their artillery did. So, after using 100% ammo, and I do have to rerun the test one more time to get the first screenshot. With these tests in mind, we'll have to bear in mind if you have 4 batteries all firing at once. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm using an iron gun with no upgrades at all, and I'm not concentrating my fire. And so, honestly, why don't we try it? I don't even need to do the other test. Why don't we try having 2 batteries right now target that enemy at near our maximum range. There, and both target them. There, I broke them. So I broke them, and I used more than half my ammo to do it. But again, not a single item. So I'm firing at my maximum range with an iron gun and broke them. So, and previously I just barely broke them. So I suppose before these changes that wouldn't have been possible. So I don't know if I want to overdo this anymore. I'm going to do one final test. And so what we're going to do for this test now is we're going to grab our cannons. We're going to grab the... what's a cannon you guys like to use? Like a Brummer? I see everybody using Brummers. But maybe that's not as common. So why don't we try a bronze 12-pounder? And give that to our unit. And rebuild units. Brummers with Canister. Yeah, but Canister's been nerfed into the ground and is barely usable right now, so I do not want to give them Canister shot. Okay. So now let's use a basic iron gun in tandem with an upgraded gun and have both of them do counter battery fire simultaneously to this enemy. And let's fire at them. First shot was a miss. Oh, close. There, yeah, they're broken. They used all their ammo doing that, though, but I did break them. We could go in and take a look. No items. Yeah, you're right, Alec. I don't want to overdo it because there are no items at all. Or veterancy, yeah. Or officer, for that matter, too. Imagine you had an officer with, 10% accuracy, an item as well, and actual piece of artillery would do better. Yeah, I agree. So why don't we not overdo it? Let's just leave that as it is. We're going to say that artillery counter battery fire deals 10% more HP damage. There. And then I think now we just adjust the pricing. I think that's probably the next thing to do. Try it out with items and a commander. Yeah, we could go do that. Thing is, we didn't do it without it, so I'll have nothing to compare this against, but we'll just see how it is. Austria, we'll use them. Play on normal, and go in. Okay. So let's grab this artillery piece, let's upgrade it and give it an elevation screw and less ammo consumption. Now this thing is decked out with a commander with his doctrine. So that is a decent amount of buffs just from the start. And we're going to play against an AI that's moving. And let's jump in. I'm wondering when we get a Reichsarmee loading screen. I'll show it to you. I don't think I've shown anybody else before, so I'll show you the loading screen. We're probably going to make one more. We're probably going to have two. So this is just one of them, which is this one here. It's the Bavarian Life Regiment. Firing a volley. So that one's pretty cool. And then let's go to debug. I don't need to fight this one. Let's go ahead and fight a patrol. And hopefully they have some artillery that I can pick on. They do. Also, I don't know what you think about this. I think we're going to code it so the first patrol that you encounter has a slightly smaller army. Just because I think some newer players get jumped by an army of 5 units, and sometimes some compositions only start with 3 or 4, and they're actually struggling on the first battle. So I think we may just change it so the very first patrol you encounter is just a little bit worse, that's all. Okay, so I have these units here. I'm going to set up the artillery. In fact, I'm going to unset it, actually. And then bring it over to the hill to get an accuracy bonus. There we go. Let's set this thing up. Enemy only got 12 kills on that, so that's not that scary. Do you want me to fire on the enemy artillery or the infantry? What do you prefer with this bronze 6-pounder? And the difference is that we're probably going to deal higher morale damage than we used to. We'll probably land more of our shots than we used to. And we're going to fire quicker than we used to. So instead of 40 seconds, it's 35 seconds. Let's do artillery to compare. Yeah, we can fire at the enemy artillery. I don't think we're going to be that lucky, though. Because... why is my mouse not able to target? Oh, there we go. I don't think we're going to be that lucky because they're even like dug in, and we only have 4 cannons. So I don't think this is going to be that effective. But we'll see. And I'll refight the battle and try to fire at infantry instead. Yeah, I don't know if it's even smart to do this. Like, why would I fire at these 4 little tiny guns who have cover as well? And I also don't have a full battery yet, so I feel like it's just not even effective to try counter battery fire with a battalion gun. It kind of just seems like I don't know if we'd even want to make it that effective. I am getting kills on it, and by getting kills, it's reducing the amount of kills they can get, but it still feels a little bit like a waste. I'm gonna move my commander over. Why do they walk so slow? What the fuck? That is weird. Let me put in a thing to test. They shouldn't be going this slow at all. I've made their move speed pretty high. I keep making it higher and higher, and it just seems like they're not going. Also, why is it Broglie? It's the wrong commander as well. There's a bunch of stuff that's wrong. I'll look into that. Something is going wrong there. So we're going to keep firing at the artillery. I'll refight the battle again, and I'll fire at infantry next time. At least they're wavering now. If you had 4 of those right now, you would have gotten 80 kills. Yeah, if I just had another one of these guns, this thing would be routed by now, because look, I've taken out half that morale. Okay, I took it out. And now I'm going to fire at the infantry. So if I fire at this infantry, let's see what happens. Are they firing? They already fired? Really? Oh no, these are the 4 cannonballs midair. So let's see if I fire at them. Bang. So that morale damage was actually pretty severe, even though I didn't get that many kills. See how it only has 51 kills, but the morale damage actually was a good shock on them. By the way, there's so much smoke because I use the 50 times speed fast forward button as a debug, which blows up the smoke, so just ignore that. It's only recruits. Yeah, but the other thing is I only have 4 guns and no veterancy on this either. So there's just so many factors. Like, you might say, well, it's only recruits. You should be able to break them in one single volley. Okay, then what happens when the player has 3 field guns of 6 strength each with maxed out items and max veterancy, and then they all target a guard unit and the guard shatters in the first shot? And then you're like, yeah, that's too much. By the way, these guys are in 64% cover, so let me... I don't have any better target because the other guy has a commander. Oh, he's providing 0% morale. Hold on. Mostly misses. I just got unlucky there. 2 of my guns also weren't even ready to fire. Where's the other one? Yeah, let me redraw them on the hill so they're getting the max elevation bonus. Try Canister. I have not balanced Canister out yet, so I don't want to test it right now because I've not... We've like changed it pretty severely, but I've not really tested too much. Yeah, the pricing is not... The pricing is completely irrelevant right now, actually. Because the pricing is going to get completely changed. Yeah, the damage I'm doing is pretty good, but this guy's holding super well because he's got a morale bonus, another morale bonus, a morale damage received bonus, and an officer and veterancy, and he's a Prussian musketeer. So yeah, I just can't get that guy to break. He's a bit tougher. I bet I could break this cantonist, though. If I tell my guys to hold fire. I bet this artillery could probably break the cantonist. Yeah, I broke him. So yeah, the artillery is like pretty good there, the field gun. This thing is actually worth having in the army, it feels, because it's performing better than my recruits. So this is fine. Cover does not... 95% cover doesn't ignore 95% damage. It's usually about half. So if you've got 100% cover, you're reducing about half the damage coming in. It's closer to a third, Alex. Alex is actually right. It's closer to a third. Oh, I'm getting charged. I'll hold fire and see if we can target them. Alright, let's fire. Yeah, no one's ready to shoot. Alright, officers, gotta get up there. And I should be able to win that. Well, I don't know if I'll win that or not. The officer gives combat effectiveness, so I'm not suffering from as much from exhaustion as they are, because we both have exhaustion. But their stats are being lowered more than mine are. So that's... I think I'll lose it, though, unless this artillery can turn the tide right now. Okay, that's helpful. I might be getting some friendly fire damage. That's the only thing. Let's see if the general can knock them out. Did a little bit. Yeah, the general helped out a ton there. That was close. I'm getting charged over here too. Luckily I had a volley saved up. Then we'll swivel the gun. The gun's out of ammunition. That artillery performed super well. If anything, this performed too well. It's got 354 kills. Then again, I do have a doctrine, and it's a bronze gun, and I've got the bonuses on them, so I'm okay with that. Are you going to test the Russians with the morale buff on stream? I do have a question for you guys. If, this is the Arty Army. Yeah, it is. You're right. The artillery should be doing good. Yeah. I do have a question for you guys that, oh, by the way, look how cheap the items are. So you get more plunder, you get more cash, but look at this. The cross pennants are only $15. The items are way, way cheaper now. So you can go and shop and just pick up a shit ton of items if you want to. I just made them all $20 cheaper. Which means excellent items aren't really affected that much, right? Because if an excellent item costs $150, now it's $130. That's not that much of a difference. But if a basic item costs $50, now it costs $30. Now that's a lot better. So basic items are more attractive, essentially. And you can still see they're pretty expensive, but it's not as bad. Yeah. Yeah, cheese is only 40. What's cool, too, is you have a new thing that tells you how much a item is worth. So if you're in your camp, it'll tell you that it'll tell you what it's worth to sell. So you can see the cross pennant is worth 15 to sell. Which is why I was actually mistaken. The cross pennant does not cost 15. It actually said 15 because it's actually, we changed it. It's now showing you the sell cost on the loot screen. That's why I said it was 15. So the two changes we made is that when you get loot, it tells you what the actual value is when you sell it, which is more important, I think, because you're getting loot, which you're probably going to sell some of it. And secondly, in your inventory, it now tells you the worth. You can also sort by value. So you can actually sort the highest value stuff, and you'll know that that is going to get you the best to sell. So these two things in tandem should be quite useful. These aren't highlighting, though, I think. Yeah. I guess it shouldn't remain highlighted, though, because you can override it, right? Like, now that's not sort by value, but you can just do that to keep refreshing it. Yeah, that makes sense. And then you can sort by type. So the cannons are grouped, the food's grouped, and so on. The loot is back here. So that should be helpful to do some inventory management. But yeah, the blue coat doctrine is like the tall doctrine now, and I really wanted another composition where you can focus on just having, like, I thought it'd be cool if you could try to get to the end of the game with only like 2 brigades, but they have all maxed out items. So I wanted a composition where you could try that with, especially because there's a British achievement that says get to the end of the game with only 3 brigades, and now you have 2 ways to do it, either through the regular British composition who focuses on drill, or the blue coat. The other thing is drilling is now more effective. It's faster. By the way, here, check out the new difficulty screen. This is all done. So Colonel is selected by default. You have Major. It tells you what it has. Brigadier or Marshal. You have Custom, which shows you the normal screen. You can select the enemy nations you want to turn on. You can also turn on Iron Man with easy modifiers now. And difficulty modifiers at the same time, which is nice. You could turn off historical enemies. And if you just turn that off, you'll go against everyone. So watch, if I'm like France, for example, go in, turn off historical enemies, jump in on Colonel, then I should be able to get a region that has random enemies that will create more variation for my game. So you can see I have Austrians now fighting, which normally the French don't fight the Austrians, but you get more variety there. And so yeah, that's an option you can choose. And then the other thing I'll show you is, does this include the player nation? No, just non-player nations. That's a good question. It's just non-player nations. However, you can go to custom and actually enable to fight yourself if you want to. So you can enable that if you do want to. But what I did want to show you was the new drilling effectiveness. The cannons were actually pretty easy to rebalance. I was pretty stressed about rebalancing them, but I feel like we made some good changes here that were just nice and subtle. And then all we have to do left is adjust the prices. But yeah, let me show you the new drilling. Okay, so what we can do is, oh, we do have to do Canister. We could do that next. I'm okay with doing that. So we're going to give him this pontoon. We're going to camp out in the forest. And then we're going to drill. And in 2 days of drilling, 1 and 2, I'm already promoted. Ready? There's my promotion. So let's say we spent the first 10 days drilling. There, let's stop there. We're already a level 4, level 3, and level 4. So the British foot is almost at the veteran foot. And the light dragoons are already just continuing to max out. And then we could come over to our barracks, probably grab a recruit, which are now cheaper, by the way. The recruits are now cheaper. And the non-recruits are more expensive by plus 50. So this redcoat recruit used to cost 400. And the Hanoverian recruit used to cost 750. But that made the Hanoverian recruit way more attractive, right? Because it's a foot unit. But now the recruit is way more attractive because it's cheaper while everything else is a little pricier. And so I can drill. And if I drill for, let's say, 5 days with my recruit, I'm already up to rank 3, which I can go artillery if I want to. I can do 1 more day of drilling. And without ever fighting, I'm already a redcoat recruit. There. The British veteran foot, honestly, Flip, I'm surprised you say that you go Grenadier over the veteran foot. I think the veteran foot, they get the 45 accuracy. Yeah, I know you're saying they have almost as good of accuracy. Well, here's the thing. They only have 1,000 guys. So you're losing 200 men, meaning you're actually doing worse in firepower. So 1,200 to 1,000 is what percentage decrease? You're losing 16% of that firepower. So it's 5% less accuracy and 16% less damage on top of that. And so, yeah, it just depends what kind of build you're going for. The thing is, if you then stack percentages of percentage modifiers to accuracy, that British foot is going to start becoming disproportionately better. But yeah, this is why they're actually priced evenly. You can kind of go either way. It's up to you. But I do like the British veteran foot because I like to double down into a particular strategy. But yeah, drilling is much better now. Drilling also affects the officer a lot more. You can see it didn't really affect him too much in this case. But it does help out more than it used to by about 50%. So drilling will get your officers up a little quicker too. More units to fire needs a wider front. I actually think that's good. If you've got a wider front, there's less possibility you're going to get flanked. If you've got a really small front, then the enemies will inevitably send shit around to flank you. So, yeah, I mean, it's just up to you. If you want to only use grenadiers, there's nothing stopping you. You can do that. Is the implication you think I should make the grenadiers worse? I don't really think I need to. I think they're fine. I could give them worse accuracy, I suppose, but... I don't like losing 200 guys, though. Especially because if I'm bombed by artillery, you're losing men even faster. And I like the manpower. I like having a little bit of extra strength on them. That's just my opinion, though. What else? Are we balancing units now? Not really. Somebody just mentioned British Grenadiers, and I don't want to do too much unit balancing this update because I'm doing so much. We've got over 30 pages of changes. If I'm adding in a ton of units next month, I'm adding in all the new unit trees. Why don't we save the unit balancing for next month? Because that's when we're adding a bunch of new units, and this way I only have to do one big balance pass, rather than balancing all of these units relative to each other. But then guess what? This conversation you guys are having about the British Grenadiers being more valuable, well, guess what? The British are getting a foot guard unit, which is only accessible if you go down the veteran foot tree. So everything we're saying now is going to get thrown out the window, because the moment the foot guard comes in, then you're going to go, why would I ever go Grenadiers? I can never get the foot guard. Then the whole conversation has to reset, right? So I think it's best saving the balance discussions for later once we add in all those extra units. But yeah, let's definitely take a look at the pricing. And I think I've got two questions. I've got a lazy question, and I have the non-lazy question. I can go in and see this test I made. I can reconduct this entire test from scratch now that I've changed a lot of the values here. But this will take me about an hour, and then we can reprice these based on performance. Or we can kind of vibe it out and just understand that the field guns are going to be a little bit better than what they're being listed as here, and then use this as a guide. So do we cut corners and shave off an hour, or do we get a slightly more precise result, but it's going to take us one extra hour? I don't know what I want to do. I don't mind vibing it too. I don't mind vibing it. Because in reality, I think we will it'll probably be like $50 more precise, but that margin of error is not very large. So, yeah. But yeah, no, there's definitely going to be basis for the new cost. Let's grab the gun cost, and let's sort by DPM. And I would say the Brummer being 1800 sounds about appropriate. If this is the highest possible DPM you can get, I think this sounds about right. Maybe we could go like 1600. What do you guys think the highest cost of a field gun should be? Or just an artillery piece? Because I don't mind that these are pretty pricey. But I think the lower tier guns need to be like almost dirt cheap. I wouldn't mind if like a 6-pounder was even cheaper and that sort of thing. Oh, I backed out. I see people end the game with all Brummers anyways, so I actually don't think we need to change the cost of these very much. So the Brummer can stay for now. I think the Brummer can stay. Instead of talking it out, let me go in and create a new cell, and I'm just gonna be quiet and just create some pricing, and you guys tell me in a sec. Hold on. Brett, if the artillery is just breaking randomly, it might be the case that a stray gunshot is hitting them. And we're actually fixing that so that gunshots are not going to cause as much damage to artillery specifically. By the way, just a question for you guys. I've actually heard that bronze guns took longer to reload because the brass gets hotter than iron. So it burns your hands. So it actually, if you're firing it a lot, it actually is worse. And right now they actually shave off 5 seconds. We can actually keep it the same and they can still shave off 5 seconds of reload. Or we could make it the same amount of reload time. Or we could actually make them cost 5 more seconds of reload. And in exchange, you're getting higher range and accuracy. But that would be the only things you're getting. Right now, the only benefit a bronze gun gives you is more range, slightly. Very slightly, actually. And a lot more accuracy. So yeah, we could make the bronze a little longer to reload. And go a +5 instead. Especially because we buffed all the field guns, right? We buffed all the field guns already. So the bronze 12-pounder got a buff. And what else did we do to it? We gave it better effective range. It's going to bring down the DPM severely. I don't think it actually is flip, because remember guys, earlier at the beginning of the stream, look, I took the reload time of field guns and reduced it by 5 seconds. And then I'm taking the bronze guns and increasing it by 5 seconds. So the DPM actually doesn't change on a bronze gun. All we're doing is just actually improving the iron gun fire rate. but the accuracy is worse, and the range is worse on an iron gun. Well, it will make howitzers worse. Yeah. But howitzers are already the top performing weapons. I mean, look at this. But look at my test. The bronze 10-pound howitzer is actually the second best gun in the game right now. So, you know what? Maybe bronze howitzers don't need to be this damn strong. Because they're actually as good as a Brummer, basically, right now. And that's probably not correct. I could undo it. Do you guys think I should just go back to what it was? I can undo what I was changing and just make it an improvement. At the very least, I could just keep it the same and not actually improve. For simplicity, it should just be a straight upgrade. What if it just didn't change? So what if the bronze only improved your accuracy and your range? This way, you're not actually improving the reload time on them. So the DPM isn't as extremely good on the bronze gun. I don't know. Because they're already pretty damn good. Well, muskets don't work that way. I think that's fine, Darkfire. Do muskets have explosion radius damage? Or canister? Like, the bronze guns increment in canister shot as well. Or the tier of the guns. But muskets don't have canister shot. So, I think it's fine. These are asymmetric. They're not the same. It's still an upgrade, though. It's just going to be the same time. Which, by the way, can I also add, I decrease the base time of the field gun reload time. So the bronze guns, compared to what they are right now in the game at the moment, bronze guns will just be better in the next update. So they're getting better regardless. But yeah, you're mainly upgrading your accuracy and your range. Those are the two things you're getting better at. But otherwise, they're the same. Yeah, I won't make them worse in any way. I'm just going to lay out the prices real quick, though. Let's do... These big howitzers are getting buffed, by the way, so they look like they're performing poorly, but... Losing money all the time wasn't as fun with France. I don't know, dude. I think people have disagreed with me, but I found France like the easiest nation to play. France and Austria seem to be the easiest. The brigade cost saves you like $4,000, so even if you're losing money, you technically still come out positive. And the units are quite good in the late game, and you can snowball with the melee buff, and I find that pretty easy with them, so I'm not sure. And the tech tree is very efficient too, yeah. Russia really is the worst one. I think Russia's not very fun or interesting at the moment. Yeah, France is very difficult early game, but the late game is much, much better. I think Austria is like in a perfect spot. Britain's a little bit too powerful, but I don't know if I even really want to change that. France is powerful in the late game, and I don't think they need an adjustment. Prussia's just very average, and I think they're fine. Russia's really feels like the weaker thing. I think they are just not as fun to play with at the moment. Which, I changed their bonus, but I don't even know if I like their bonus. Someone will have to remind me to come back to this. But I changed their bonus to recruit tier morale plus 50%. So your recruits can just hold the line like really, really effectively. But I don't know if I even like that. Because I think I might prefer to give them a different doctrine. Which I was thinking of giving them this one. 1 second. I was thinking of giving this as their the national doctrine for for the Imperial Army composition. Going with the morale damage received minus, maybe it could be minus 10%. Instead of 20%, because you'd be starting the game with it, so it's pretty damn powerful. So that could be the case for their Imperial Army, whereas right now I give them a recruit buff, which I don't know if the recruit buff is that interesting. I mean, it's kind of cool. I'll show you what the recruit buff looks like, and you guys could tell me what you think. And then we got to get back to pricing cannons. But look at this. Because of this bonus, I have 52 morale. Which is actually higher than my musketeers. And then if you give them items, I get up to 74. And I can give them buck and ball. You can stay on recruits till level 9. Yeah, that's what I was thinking with them. And then I think you could probably slingshot yourself to the highest tier unit then. Isn't 52 higher than French? It is, but their stats are horrible otherwise. All it really means is that they're just going to fight to the death for you. The upgrade units will be objectively worse. I think you guys are misunderstanding. You know morale in this case. It does give you a combat effectiveness buff, but morale is not accuracy. Look how low the accuracy is. It's 26. So, yeah, these guys will stay for a while and basically do no damage. So it's not really like you're getting worse. It'll be better than Vet Zero Musketeers. Yes, it will. I mean, that's the whole point. If you got, I mean, that's about like the most obvious thing. Yeah, it would be, yes, it would be worse if you have a bonus that buffs your morale, then upgrading to a unit that doesn't get the morale buff has lower morale. Yes, if we don't like that from a design perspective, we can completely get rid of that though. I'm not married to it. If we don't like the design, I can get rid of it. But you can see, who's the guy I gave all the items and stuff? This guy here. Look at that. He's got 3 bars of morale. 80 morale confident. I give him buckshot. Thing is, buckshot with a worn musket is pretty rough because it's got like no range to begin with. Yeah, these guys have like crazy staying power. and then you can flank with a good unit. They just don't get many kills. See, they're killing very little, but it just gives you the opportunity to flank with other units. Look at my morale there. My morale's like basically unchanged. Look at that. So I don't know, it's kind of a neat gimmick that your early game, you can just grind a shit ton of veterancy and win battles very effectively, and then you can kind of slingshot the units up to a higher tier by saving up all the veterancy and then giving them a huge upgrade. Like this won't work late game, but early game you can just completely ignore. You can see how much damage I'm taking because the actual effectiveness of these guys isn't very good. For a point-blank buckshot volley, that was very poor. The thing is, this unit is the... I don't know what the... I'm having a tough time explaining. I guess I'll just explain for those of you who are just coming into the stream. A surf recruit is like the lowest tier unit in the Russian army, and it's got low accuracy. So you can, if we evaluate this unit, we can see its base level accuracy is a 24, which is not very good. That's even on elevation with a 10% increase. And otherwise, its stats are like a 20 and a 22. It's using a worn musket, which is also very bad, and a worn bayonet. So this unit overall in stats is low. So even if it uses buckshot, or if you gave this thing a Jaeger rifle, it's not going to be effective with those things. You can't give a unit a single item and make it incredible. So it is not meant to be very strong. However, if you were to give buckshot to a good unit with high veterancy, a good officer, a good doctrine, a high tier unit, with like good terrain, all other factors accounted for, you would probably obliterate that unit in a single shot. So yeah, it's not necessarily meant to be too powerful. Like without buckshot, look, I'm getting 60 kills over 3 volleys. But with buckshot, I'm up to 216 kills in that case, which is borderline overpowered, if anything. So that's kind of the reason for that. The other thing too is I have made buckshot worse than it used to be. It's now additive and not a percentage. So it no longer just gets you a free, it no longer gets you a free shatter when you use it. God, they're slow as hell. They're gone. Yeah, I had a 500 accuracy unit with buckshot. Yeah, that's been removed. That has been changed. So buckshot now just gives you 30 accuracy. It's additive. It's no longer a multiplier. So this good buckshot rounds gives you 30, which is actually not bad. The thing is, I'm not going to compromise on this at all because I don't like that you guys can use an ammo type that kills 300 people or 1,000 people in a single shot and is overpowered and gets your unit up to 700 accuracy. I don't want that. That's just not going to be in the game. So whatever you're used to, you're going to have to get used to this change because it was not intended that you would break the entire experience by equipping buckshot and stacking modifiers in a way that would completely ruin the balance. So yes, if you're using the worst unit conceivable in the entire game and you give it buckshot, no, you will not completely destroy this unit. So I can show you another example if we want to fucking go through this, where I can give you a Prussian lifeguard and give him a buckshot, and then you're going to go, he's doing way too much damage. But it's all contextual, right? If I'm using the worst weapon in the game on my first battle with the worst unit in the game and give it a mid-tier buckshot, it's not going to give me a, it's not going to win the battle for me, right? And it shouldn't. I don't think you should have any unit, basically, unless it's a gimmick with that composition, right? But I don't think you should have any unit that can just get a free destruction on an enemy unit with that. Hey, Kelly, what's up? I'm being what? I'm being rude? I know I am. You know why I'm being rude? Do you see me sweating right now? And my face, does my face look right? It's 72 degrees out, and this house is so damn hot. Feel my back. This is why I think this is why I think I'm being rude. Feel my back.
Okay, put your fan
I'm sweating. I'm sweating like a pig. Yeah, hold on. Let me go fix that. God, that was frustrating. Though. I'm just sweating. I'm just.
Griff, did you not see my message?
Yes, I did. I'm gonna go fix it. I didn't know it would be 72 degrees out.
Okay, I was gonna say it's very.
We'll go do a walk together. No, but I was being rude. I'm sorry to the guy I was being rude to. I am just sweating my ass off. Alright, I'm back. Yeah, sorry if I was a bit, or not even if I was a bit rude, sorry I was being a bit rude about that, but I'm just sweating my damn ass off right now. Look, it's 70 degrees in the winter. It was just, it was 35 last night, so I have the heat on, and the heat is fucking blasting me right now. So yeah, I'm sorry I was being rude about that. But no, the buckshot will be good if you invest in a unit to make it better. But buckshot with a surf recruit is no longer going to get you a free insta-kill. So I've just been bouncing out a bit. Let me see if I can show you what buckshot looks like with like a lifeguard. Just to show you the extreme ends of it, for the hell of it. I'll go in with Prussia and just show you. And then we gotta price the artillery. Buckshot will no longer be worth it for elite units, though. I don't know if that's true, Alex. The range debuff is not worth plus 30 accuracy. Yeah. Yeah, that's a tough one, actually. I think maybe the, what's it called? The range debuff might be too extreme. Maybe. Because it does look like... I did actually make it... I actually made it so you lose less range than previously. Let's just take a look before we start speculating. Let's actually just look at what it is. So look, we're going to have this guy go. Buckshot is minus 70. Now it's only minus 50. It could always be an additive range debuff as well. That's interesting. You know what the problem with that is, though? With Jaeger rifles, it's way overpowered already. So I actually like that it's a percentage, because it really helps rein in the damn Jaeger rifles using it, which I don't like how that's sort of overpowered at the moment. There. So I have 2 lifeguards who will be identical. I'll give them just a normal musket each. There. I'll give them the same bayonet as well, just for the consistency. And I'll also take the AI off. And then I will... give 1 buckshot. There. And just to give you an example, the buckshot here is 35 accuracy, minus 50% range. Buck and ball is now only minus 35% range and 30 accuracy. And then the best quartered shot is only actually minus 20% range. So the quartered shot is actually pretty decent in that regard. But let's take a look here. Quartered was always good. Okay, yeah. 15 minus 15 range for 5 accuracy. Is that what it is? What gives you only 5 accuracy? What are you talking about? Yeah, all of these give you way more than that. Let's see, we've got 2 duplicate units we can use this against as well. The excellent is only giving you 5 accuracy? How is the excellent buckshot giving you 5 accuracy? I'm not sure what you mean. Oh, you mean you're... Okay, compared to each other. Right, right. Oh, what the hell is this? Okay. Yeah, I can take a look at that in a second. That hill's fixed. That's good. This is a new map. There. That's buckshot. We're going to grab 2 recruits. Now, they're a little bit different. This one's got 8 morale. That one's got 6 morale. So they're about the same. What's he got? 6 morale. 6 morale. So we'll grab both of these guys because they're about the same, yeah. And then we'll put them in front. And let's test out. The damage. Are they not doing anything? Okay, so I got 228 kills with buckshot and 158. I actually didn't even break the surf recruits on the first shot, but I did here. So, I don't know. I think the buckshot is still pretty decent there. It's just not going to be overpowered anymore. I'm also not using a weapon that has a specialty in range. If you'd like a Charleville, it'd probably be a little bit better because I'd get just a bit more range there. But this seems fine, right? I'm not sure we need to do much to this, right? It does require you to get close, but you get an extra 100 kills with it. So if you use this guy to flank with, then he's going to be better. Now I'll show you the actual item comparison. So you can see here that there, this is the buckshot and quartered shot. I would just tweak the difference between them, yeah. You go up to 35 accuracy and lose 50% range on excellent. Or you go up to 30 and only lose 35%. Yeah, that seems, buck and ball just seems way better in that case, right? So I think maybe this could be, what, 25? Or we could make buckshot even more. Like, I could go 30, 35, 40 if we wanted to make buckshot even better. But it might be a bit overpowered. I don't really like it giving you 40 accuracy. I think that's kind of nuts. I don't know. 40 accuracy is kind of insane, though. Isn't it? Like, if you just stick that on a Jaeger rifle and you get 40 extra accuracy, then you can fire at normal range with a plus 40, and that is just kind of... I don't know. Something feels wrong about that to me. I'll stick it on a Jaeger rifle and we'll see. Yeah, I know you had up to 200. I know you could get it up way higher than that with the previous version. We're gonna give him a Jaeger rifle now. This is rare. It's going to be like an excellent Jaeger rifle, so this is an extreme example, of course. Can you stop Jaegers from taking it? I don't know how you would do that, like how you actually explain it to the player that for some reason certain guns can't use it or certain units can't use it. It just feels a bit wrong. I could add a stipulation on the description of a Jaeger rifle and just say it cannot be used with specialty ammunitions. I could do that. I mean, this isn't that overpowered, to be honest. Let's see the kill differences. The morale won't matter because they have different items, but I just want to see the kills. Yeah, 265. Well, I'm using an excellent weapon with super high accuracy. But yeah, let me take a look at this. Make it so quartered has plus 15 accuracy. It does have plus 15 accuracy. It goes up to 25. 15 accuracy isn't worth anything. I don't know if that's true, Alex. Like, there are items that give you 8 accuracy, so is just every item in the game useless? I think you're just used to the game allowing you to break 200 accuracy, which is an exploit, and that with each subsequent update, there is going to be less ways for you to do that. But taking 15 accuracy for only 20% less range is not bad, and that's a basic item there. 25 accuracy for only 20% less range is pretty damn decent, because you could probably get an excellent tier weapon that gives you about 20% extra range, and so now you don't have any range debuff and you're just getting 25 extra accuracy. That's quite good. I think this one seems fine. The only thing I really see here is just that the buck and ball seems like it's less punishing. Like, I would rather take 30 accuracy at 35% less range than 35 at 50%. Like, this just seems too extreme. So I guess my two ideas could be that I don't want to touch any of the accuracy. It's just mainly the range. I could make the buckshot deal, or like have less of a range penalty, make it 0.45 instead. I don't think it should have 40 accuracy. I kind of disagree with that. If we wanted to give it 40 accuracy, I'd have to make it half, 50% less range, or yeah, 50% less. You can't do both. In my opinion, it shouldn't be both. So either decrease the range or increase the accuracy, one or the other. I do have one crazy idea if we wanted to for fun. I'll just throw it out there. Quartered musket balls could give you range and give you less accuracy, just so they do something different. Because quartered musket balls have slits in them, which you could kind of explain is like early rifling when bullets have actual grooves in them. And so it could give you like 10% or 5%. An actual rifle gives you 200% extra range because those grooves are really, really good. But the quarter slits could give you just a little bit of a spin on the ball, and that could give you maybe like 10% or 20% extra, and this way it gives it at least a niche. And quartered musket balls have very little documented history. It's just something that some soldiers would do. They cut slits in it, so when the bullet would make impact, it would shatter and go into different pieces and make the wound harder to heal. But I think giving a little extra range would be cool, because then you actually may want to give this to a rifleman. And that could be kind of neat. So it just gives it more of a niche. I think that would be cool. Because otherwise, all 12 of these items, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, sorry, 9 items all do the same thing. They're all reducing range and giving you a different amount of accuracy every time, which makes it really hard to differentiate. So we could give, what, 10%, 5% accuracy, 10% accuracy, and 15% accuracy, and then -5, or sorry, range, I mean, range. -5 accuracy each time. I don't like that. I'm just thinking right now. I would imagine the range would get better. Sorry, the accuracy would get better over time. So it could be like that. Yeah, sorry, this is 50%. That's now 10%, and that's 15. Ah, you're saying it could increase accuracy a little bit. Yeah, that's interesting. So it could be like -5, 0, +5. Let me just see how that looks. I think it should always decrease the accuracy, but then again, when would you ever want to equip this if you're losing accuracy, but you get more range? I guess the extra range would let you get that first shot off, especially if you gave this to a Grenzer, the Grenzer composition where they already have extra range and everything. You could really stack it and fire like really, really far, which could be kind of cool. Go up. I like going 15%. 5 accuracy with 15% extra range is fine. Yeah, I don't think that's bad. You know, the lass, I don't think you're actually getting extra effective range when accuracy is increased. I think and when max range is increased. I think effective range stays static no matter what. I believe that's the case. Okay, if range is higher and accuracy is higher, you would never turn it off. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you know how I know effective range isn't altered? Watch this. See how it turns white back here because it's out of effective range? When we lower this, there's no white because the effective range is still within this bubble. So what, I got 265 kills at max range. Let me take the buckshot and bring it even closer and fire buckshot there. Let's see if we do more damage. If this does more damage, then effective range is still doing something here. Let's just see. So 265. So it went from 226 to 265. Sorry. I'm wrong. I actually got less kills on that shot. So yeah, it's about the same. But yeah, the quartered musket balls would end up just being too good in this case. Yeah, it's kind of like these are a late game item for like better troops, right? Minus 20 would be terrible. I do agree. Like the best you could do is like that, I think, or sorry, maybe that. But then again, why would you ever not have that equipped? So you'd have to make this a trade-off. And then you would have to make this higher to make it more worth it. So you could fire a volley to get a free shot off, then swap your ammo type. It's a tough one, isn't it? We could also do something else instead to accuracy. Let me just think if there's any other thing we'd want to change. It could be like reload. Like you'd lose your reload skill a little bit instead of losing accuracy because they're harder to load, I guess. Instead of making them less accurate, I'm not sure. Or it could increase your ammo consumption because they're a more specialty ammunition. That could be interesting because let me just play with that for a second because then there's actually a reason why you would switch off of them. So this is it almost is like assuming like this is making the assumption then that these are harder rounds to create. And then you would be increasing your ammo consumption by a lot and then only by a little. And then you're getting that extra range, but then you're like, I'm using up all my ammo. Let me switch to the basic rounds because I have more of them basically. So this way it's kind of like there's a logistical question, and then you'd want to get cartridge boxes and like upgrades to make sure you're not burning through ammunition as much. And I think that could be kind of interesting. So this way you're purely just getting the max range buff and you're not losing accuracy by equipping these. But if you think about it, if you'd have to like have these like pseudo rifle rounds, like these early rifle bullets, they're a little harder to produce and a little rarer. It's the reason that the Shuvalov artillery never took off because it used like puck-shaped artillery rounds and they couldn't share ammunition with the round shot. So the logistics was too hard to resupply them and they ended up falling out of favor. So it could be kind of interesting. Do you guys prefer the reload debuff or higher ammo consumption? I think you could probably explain both of those options. Like there's probably like a reason why either could be occurring. Morale damage increase could be good. That's interesting. But then again, Mullen, you want a negative side of it because if there's no negative, then you'll always just keep this equipped. That's kind of the issue. So you basically have to have one pro and one con with an ammo type. If it's two pros, then you're never going to not use it. Mine is range, but more morale damage. We could do that. We could still lower the range and then do higher morale damage. Do we even have a stat for that, though? I don't think I have a morale damage. I don't even have I don't have a stat for that, unfortunately. Yeah, I don't think I do. No, I mean, I don't have a stat for it as an item. I don't think there's any precedent that an item gives you more morale damage. So I don't think that's a parameter that I'm able to play with, unfortunately. More accuracy. but higher ammo consumption. Yeah, that does sound decent. Look at that, 10, 15, 20. So you're getting good accuracy with it. But then your ammo consumption's going up from 10% to 15% to 20% more ammo consumption. So yeah, you can assume the same percentage of ammunition of the accuracy you're receiving there. Which I kind of like this because you're never going to reach the same heights of an excellent buck and ball or an excellent buckshot. But you basically don't have to sacrifice any range. And then you can equip some cartridge boxes to counteract the ammo consumption. Why would excellent have the worst consumption? I guess you're right. I guess, you know, if we want to make it consistent with the buckshot where I keep the range the same each time, I could just keep it consistent here. And just for testing purposes, let me make this, you know, 80%, just to test that it works to begin with. And so let's go in, rebuild items, and I'll try that out. Does Hanover get quartered musket rounds? They do. That's cool. So we're testing out that this would actually eat away ammo. It's at the bottom, I'm pretty sure. Okay, that's an issue. Yeah, I don't know if I can do this. Let me ask Thomas. All right, let's see how Thomas replies. Before he replies, let me do a vote. Would you rather, for quartered shot, would you rather accuracy increase, but won't be doing it for this patch? Okay, that's fine. Why don't we, for now, then, do what Flip is suggesting, because we can't do it. Why don't we just invert what it does? Just to make it unique, because we can't play with the parameter, the different like item effects right now. It has to be accuracy and range. It has to affect those two things. So why don't we lower accuracy a little bit? Like that, maybe 4, 8, 12. That's normally how I do I usually do in increments of 2, like 2, 4, 6, or 4, 6, 8. So it could be minus 12. I feel like 12, I wouldn't want to lose 12 accuracy. I'd probably go like that. And probably that, and maybe that. But then again, that's, no, it'd have to be like more like this. I could make it like that. But then it feels like it's not extreme enough, right? Lose 10 accuracy. Yeah, I can't change it, unfortunately, not for this update. So I'd like to just change it to something else, though, because I just want to make it more interesting. And then we go 15. No. 10, 15, 20%. So 20% extra range, only 4 less accuracy is not bad. I could do 5. I think 5 sounds nicer. Maybe leave range as a flat value. What if I left accuracy as a flat value? Huh. So yeah, what if you lost only 5 accuracy, but you slowly increase your range? Which is kind of inverted, as I do here. Minus 7 at each level? What do you mean minus 7 at each level? Minus 7 what? Accuracy? Range staying the same would be more consistent. Yeah. Yeah, I guess the other option then would be maybe it adds 15% extra range always. And then the accuracy is just slowly getting worse. 15, 10, and 5. I would never, ever equip an item that would give me minus 15 accuracy, ever. I may not even get something that gives me minus 10 accuracy. I feel like even that would be a bit extreme. Especially if I could be getting plus 35 for my buckshot. I would never take this item. If it was the other way around, if it was only minus 5, I would take minus 5 and try that out and get some extra shots off, like far range. I'd equip this with a Jaeger rifle. And I'd try to take pot shots, maybe equip the engineer with it as well. I think this is preferable. I would actually use this item in this case. Yeah. And then the quartered shot could be a lot cheaper. How much is an engineer? An engineer costs, or he gives up to 15% range and cover for 160. In this case, I get 15% range, lose accuracy. So that should be like half the price, honestly. So I'll make this 80. And if that's 80, that would be 30. To just get 10 extra, yeah. The thing is, the basic items always have to be much lower than the good and excellent quality. I know it seems kind of annoying that we have to work around that parameter, but people don't buy basic items, and I have to make them really cheap to make them more attractive. I wouldn't mind if this just cost 100, though. So we could go like that. Pay 150 for 20% extra accuracy. You could stack that with an engineer and get crazy accuracy then. I think if you stack it, that's where it becomes very powerful. I would go a little less, though, because it doesn't make sense that I'm paying about the same price, but I'm losing accuracy compared to this giving me all that cover. Honestly, I could see this being 35. And then we could always change this again later if we don't like it. But at least we've made the item more unique. And this now gives you something interesting to give your Jaeger, because you can get his range really high. In fact, you could probably create something pretty broken. Let me go check with the Grenzer composition. And then we still have to price artillery. It's possible to get to 300. Yeah, you could probably go even higher then. Which maybe isn't so bad because the quartered shot seems so niche and you're giving up accuracy. Whereas normally people who are getting up to 300 range are sometimes even using like buckshot and shit. I posted it in the rate my build. Okay, I'll check that out. Grenzer sharpshooter, is this it? No. This one. So you've got 300 range, 286 accuracy, which won't be possible anymore because you will have, you will not be able to use the buckshot percentage buff. But you will be able to get that range really high. So at least there's a trade-off. At least now if you want to get that range and even higher, you're actually going to lose accuracy. So I'll equip that. I'll open these up. Then we want to try to get range. What else can give me range? Not much. The engineer can, though. And then I need an excellent Jaeger rifle there. There's a doctrine, yeah. I will add that doctrine. I don't see the doctrine. The dash-on, yeah, the dash-on does too. Range, you need a cleric? Max range, there it is. So my range is up to 300, and then I'm gonna buff it even more. I think this is about it. And then I need some officer skills. He's already keen and precise. Okay. So these also give you range 10%, 10%, 10%, 5%, and 30%. So let's go see what he's got. Will the Reichsarmee add another mascot? That's a good question. I don't know. I don't think so. At least not right now. I could add one if you guys really wanted me to. I've not thought about it. Alright. Oh my god. What the Dude. These are like bolt action rifles. Oh my fucking god. Look, I haven't even equipped the quartered shot. That's not that bad. Really? That was it? That's not much. Dude, is the accuracy... Hold on. Yeah, it should be a multiplier, not additive. I'll put a little begging face. Oh, he's gonna yell at me. He's gonna say he can't do it. What am I going? 336 to 370. Is a 10% increase. So I don't know why that isn't as high. It doesn't look like that much. Either way, this is still insane. Oh my gosh. It's ridiculous. Yeah, I'm not hitting shit at that distance, though. That's so funny. It's probably based on the weapon's base range. That's what I'm thinking, too, yeah. It's probably not adding the 20% at the end of the math. Yeah. It makes it not really worth it, because why wouldn't you take buckshot in this case and just give up half this range and deal way more damage? If I gave these guys instead buckshot. Yeah, it's not really buffing effective range, so it doesn't really help us much. Yeah, look at this. The buckshot's barely doing shit. How do you get out of full screen? Are you kidding me? It says Control Shift F, which does nothing. Well, I'm stuck. That's awesome. I can't get out of F11. Oh, there we go. That was easy. Yeah, this is totally broken as well. So I think regardless of what we do, it's kind of broken. So maybe I'll just save this for another update, because I don't really think I can fix it right now. in the meantime, I'm not sure what to do. I guess I'll return this to the way it was and just fix this another time. Yeah, I agree. Let's focus on the artillery. I think we got way too sidetracked with this. The only thing we have to look at is we have to make buckshot a little bit better, I think. So it gives you 40 accuracy, but you kill half your range there. Which is going to make this even better. Ban Jaeger from Buck and Ball, maybe. I just don't think I'm going to touch it right now. It's too much to try to fix. We have to code all these restrictions in and everything and test it, and the update's supposed to be out tomorrow. I just don't think that's even the focus for this update, so let's not worry about it for now. I just don't think we can fix it in time. Yeah, let's just leave it. Let's leave it. By the way, I think precise is a little bit broken. 15% accuracy for 10% less melee. I feel like it should be 10 and 5 and not 15 and 10. Because getting 180 accuracy is a little nuts. I only have 4 items on this guy. I don't even have any veterancy. I think this is just a little too much. 5% on Keen is nice. I don't mind that. I feel like that should be 10 and 5. 15's way too fucking high. I'm going to change that. What was that stat? What was that again? What was that skill we were just looking at? It was infantry accuracy plus 10%, reload minus 5. That one's fine. Precise, I think. 15%. Yeah, that's too much. Sorry, one sec. I'm just waiting to push that update. The excellent Jaeger gives 42 accuracy. And the superior Charleville is 32. I think it is maybe a little too high. Let me check. Jaeger's also 2 times the cost. Yeah, true. That's true. I don't mind leaving it for now. I don't want to overdo anything. I don't see a glaring issue right now with it, so I'm not going to touch it. I'm just going to port over my changes. I think I'm going to have to do something annoying. It's not going to be fun. I'm going to go pee. Not that part. I'm going to go pee, and then I have to come back. Here's the not fun part. I've got to retest all the artillery with all these new changes. I've made so many changes to it that the DPMs and stuff are all so out of whack that I really got to test it. So I'll continue the stream, but if you don't want to watch that, it's going to be a little boring. And so you can head out if you want to. But otherwise, that's what I think I've got to do if I want to get this right. So yeah. Let me think on it. I'll be right back. Let me think on it. All right, I'm back. Yeah, I'm just gonna do this. It's 4 o'clock. Check the weather. Thing is, I really want to take a walk because it's warm out today. It's gonna be like one of the last days it's warm. You know what, guys? I'm going for a walk because it's almost 70 degrees out, and then it's going back to being 30 tomorrow. I mean, look at the difference here. 70 degrees down to 30 on the low of the next day. So you know what? I'm going to take a walk, and I'm going to balance out Canister shot. I'm going to reprice these for you guys, but yeah, I'm going to do another test and make sure everything's balanced out. I think that's what I want to do, because you don't have to even watch this part. I'll put it in the changelog. You know what's going to happen. You know I'm going to do a balance pass and reprice things, and I'm going to make things generally cheaper than they are. So it's not like anything's going to come to a surprise. It's kind of basic stuff. Let me just get out a note card and write everything I want to do for the remaining for the update. So I want to price artillery. I want to fix tooltips for things, like pluses. Okay. I want to test canister shot now. I want to update the map pool tags. I want to cheat mod. Is there anything else I want to do? Probably not. Okay. That's everything I want to do. I wrote down. Have you given any thought to AI armies deploying in lines rather than... Yeah, maybe they could. I'm not the AI guy, and I don't do any of the AI programming or design, so honestly, I can't. That's the one thing I have no control over at all in the game. So if you have feedback for it, I'd probably write that in the Discord, and then the developer who works on that could check it. But I can't even... I have literally no say. It's like the one thing in the game I have the least control over. I have no parameters to play with. I have nothing to balance. I have no numbers I can touch, and it's not something that I designed either. That's more on what Thomas did. Things like the way artillery is performing, or unit costs, or the pacing of the game, or the compositions and the content and the balancing. That's more the stuff that are things that I can change. So, yeah. But yeah, I will see you guys later. I'm going to take a walk. So, yeah, I'll get this all fixed up, and the update will be out